This is Nick Christophers from Mob Tales. Thanks for checking in. Please like, share, and subscribe. We definitely appreciate that. Leave any comments. We like that too. Today we have an interesting guest. His name is Phillip Anthony. He is an interesting individual that went from pretty much exactly what the name of his book is, from the bullet to the Bible. So we're going to get into that in a minute. So Phil, thanks a lot for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Nick, for having me on. Thanks for reaching out, man.
All good. Well, I'm going to give people just a little bit of a background real quick before I get into my questions. Phil was the kind of guy that he, grew up in, if I'm correct, Denver area. And he was a pretty tough guy, was street level person, got involved with a couple of heavy hitters as he progressed from street gang to knowing wise guys, kind of like the way I did, kind of, and how he later, turned the corner in a better way. So I'm going to get into a couple of Q&A questions now for Phil, so he can fill us in with a little more information than what I just said. My first question to you is it's two questions in one kind of a thing. So when did the street life begin for you? And which street gang, if you know the name, were you affiliated with?
Yeah, Nick, probably similar to yours, like we all start off. I was about 8 years old when I took to the streets due to the chaos in my home. They say there's an old song says looking for love in all the wrong places. And I've learned that if you do not have love in your home, and I'm hoping I'm talking to some of you young men out there, and if you don't have love in your home, you will go find it. And I found mine in the streets. There was a lot of abuse in the home. My father, bless his soul, he's a Vietnam vet. He was a recon specialist in the Marine Corps. And when he lived and he came home, he brought a lot of junk with him, mental, and he didn't have a place to put it. So he, unfortunately, me and my brothers, I got 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and I'm the oldest. We got to blend into that along with my mother. So I took to the streets.
Right. Okay. Was there any, like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you recall, or was there any specific gang or street gang that you remember the name of that you were involved with?
I ran with the Warlords. It was a neighborhood gang when we were West Denver. Well, they pretty much west, north, back and forth. And well, if you grow up, every city has its inner city. So if you grow up in a neighborhood that's got gang activity, you're kind of already part of that gang. You're going to be part of that gang or part of that group in the neighborhood. It's where you live, and it's what I knew. So it was the Warlords. They were the older guys. They used to look over us when we'd walk home from school. Other people come by, other neighborhoods, people supposed to be there. They made sure, the younger guys were taken care of. They were like my brothers, per se, back then. When all that was happening at home, that's where I would run to, and my brothers would do the same things. So it was with the Warlords. But I also had influences on both sides of my family. My mother has a big family. My father has a big family. And on my father's side, there was a lot of Sons of Silence and Bandito connections. On my mother's side, there were the Hells Angels, Chapter 57, my Uncle Rob. So even at a young age, I still, I don't know if you get what I'm saying. These are the people I looked up to. There was no talk of graduation and high school and homework and things like that. This is what I was going to turn into. So it was an everyday thing,
Right, I understand. Being that so your family was that the Warlords, were they in ethnicity wise? Were they Latin, Black,
Yes.
Italian?
They were a Hispanic gang.
Hispanic, okay. And your background is also Hispanic?
My father is got the Latin background. My mother is the Sicilian background. So
Okay.
we'll talk about that later.
That's
How
some,
that gets later.
that's a crazy mix. Okay. Um, after graduating from, from street gang into getting to know mob guys as you progressed, again, similar to the way I did, and you got to know a lot of these kind of wise guys, from what I understand, in the Genovese family, if I'm correct. Um, when you did do that and you progress into that world, to that circle, um, are you at liberty to say who you answered to or who you hung out with?
Yeah,
That, that
it's
was in that crew?
I talk about it in my book. Genovese was an association to that part of Denver. They were the east side of Denver. Um, it's hard to a lot of guys talk about. There's actually 11 families across the country, but you always hear about the five. I was with the Small Dome family out of Denver,
Oh,
who
yeah.
actually ran business with the Colombo family, and that's how my association to Michael Franzese came later. Um, but yeah, that was the friendly there. My first introduction to mafia. See, man, I was 13 years old. I didn't know anything about mafia. I didn't know what those guys were. We had our little things in the streets. We were robbing and stealing. That's what we did. Back then was car stereos, T-tops, rims on tires, things like that. The older gangsters would drop us off in a nicer neighborhood in about 10, 11 o'clock at night, where everybody left the garage doors open, everybody's yards were open. And we'd raid those neighborhoods, load up a truck at the end of the block. On the weekends, the warlords had a booth set up at what you call a swap meet or a flea market. And some of those people were probably buying their own tools back from them. So we were doing little things like that. I like to collect football cards when I was young, baseball cards, you probably remember that stuff.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I just had a problem paying for them. So me and my buddies would hit little strip malls and such. Well, there's this one strip mall in the neighborhood I was at, and I didn't pay attention to signs or nothing. But to set the scene up, there was Giovanni's liquor store, Giovanni's hardware store, Giovanni's bakery, Giovanni's restaurant. You know, somebody named Giovanni must have owned this strip mall. Um, I went into the superfood Giovanni's superfood market there with my buddies. They went over. We were on our bicycles. I was about 13 years old. My buddies are talking to the clerks, distracting them. It was my turn to take the cards, so I'm stuffing my socks and my any pockets I have with baseball cards, football cards, and I hear this big voice. It says, "Hey boy, hey, what are you doing down there?" And I look up and there's this big giant of a man, and he says, "Are you stealing?" I said, "Hey, mind your own business, you old man. I got it. Hey guys, let's get out of here. We've been made." So we run outside, get on our bicycles, and we're taking off. And here comes this guy. I mean, he was massive, Nick. I had to say he was about 6'2", 400 and some change. But he comes huffing and puffing out the store, and he makes it to the curb, and he's bent over, grabs his hands on his knees. I stopped with my bicycle at the end of the parking lot, and I looked back and I said, "You'll never catch me, you fat bastard." And I took off with my buddies. Um, a year later, now this is going to tell you a little bit of how these guys, they don't forget.
No, they don't.
A year later, I moved from junior high. I'm going into high school. Usually, the warlords are another group called the VUCs. They were joining gangs, which later on became a member of the Crips Association. But at that time, I'm with the warlords and the VUCs, and they would come over and pick us up at school. Sometimes right after school, I'd skip a few classes. I roll around with them. I'm about to get jumped in and become that part of that group here pretty quick. Well, they didn't pick me up this one particular day, and I had to walk home. And I walked through that strip mall. Well, I had robbed and stole from so many things and people. It didn't even dawn on me that I was stealing cards from this guy. So I'm walking by the bakery, you know, and it's all the eye candy, and I could smell it. And if you've been around Italian bakeries and Italian restaurants, oh, that aroma. So I'm walking by, I'm looking inside. I walk past the restaurant, bam, somebody grabs me, slams my head against the wall, runs me to the back room, past all these tables, back to this bus station where the bus boys and them were, and slapping me around, and my feet were off the ground. And he shook me, and I look in his face, and he says, "I'll never catch you, you fat bastard. That's what you told me." Oh man, this was a year ago, Nick.
Wow.
So uh I said, "What are you gonna do, man? I'm sorry, man. I don't know what I did. You are you gonna call the cops?" And he says, "You think the cops are gonna pay me back the money you took from me?" So, no, no. Here's what you're gonna do, pal. You're gonna go home. You're gonna tell your father what you did, and you're gonna be here tomorrow with a pair of black pants and a white shirt, and you're gonna pay me back every penny. You're gonna come to work tomorrow. And I said, "Okay, whatever, man." I ran out the restaurant. I go home. I never told my father what I did. You know, I took the long way around next time. I didn't go by that strip mall no more. A couple days later, I'm out with my pals, and I come into my bedroom. It's night, ready to go to bed, and laying on my bed is a pair of black pants and a white shirt. My pops runs in, bam, bam. "Boy, I don't know what you did, but I know who you did it to. You will be at work tomorrow." And I got to go to work for John Giovanni.
That's funny. So John Giovanni, I'm assuming, is a connected guy.
He was connected to Small Dones.
Small Dones, okay. So I know the last small dome that was around in that time period was Clarence.
Yes, Chauncey and Flip Flop.
Right, that's correct. Because yes, his brothers. Well, the small dome crew was Enrico, I think was one of the other guys. There was a couple of brothers, and they ran Denver for a good long time, going
Yeah,
back
they were
going
before
back to
my
the
time.
70s.
Before my time, it was back in the bootlegging days,
Hmm.
and they were very quiet about what they did. They were well known, well respected. There was a lot of loan sharking, uh, not heavy hitting like robbing airplanes and things like that, but it was smile. And later on, my corridor that I worked for them was I escorted a lot of merchandise and things from Flint and Davidson, Michigan, into Juarez, Mexico. That was later in life.
Right. Okay. Now, when you got involved with those kind of guys, um, um, with the small dome, not really small domes per se, but people, that work with them, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, so you were involved in, if I'm correct, in gambling, like bookmaking, loan sharking, something to that extent.
I
With,
was an enforcer, what I developed into. Um, with John, as I was working, to back up a little bit, if you don't mind,
mhm.
uh, in the restaurant when I was a busboy for John, he wouldn't talk to me very, very much. His wife was probably about 4 feet tall, redhead, on fire, and I thought they were always fighting the way they talked to each other. But John had a table, and nobody sat at John's table in that restaurant. Period. That's where his cigars were. That's where his newspaper was and his coffee. That's where nobody sat at John's table. And every day I'd come in after school, start my stuff, and later on, uh, John became like a father figure. Man, I know I owed him the money, and he had a way of disciplining me. And he paid me my hourly wage. I think back then it was $2.10, and he took all my tips. And he would come in the back room, and to have a conversation with John, it took a month. He would ask me one question a day, every day for a while. Like, hey, and he never called me by my first name. He called me Little Anthony. Hey, Little Anthony, do you have any brothers? Yeah, sure, Don. My brothers' names are, and he'd walk away. The next day he'd come back. What's your name? What's the brother below you? What's his name? Oh, his name's Darren. And my other brother, and he'd walk away. The next day he'd come back. What's your other brother's name? So it took a month to have a conversation with this guy. But he did this so slow. You could tell he was a boss. He had a couple guys that would have meetings with him maybe twice a week, dressed real nice, and they would come in and they too did not sit at John's table. One guy sat across from him, the other guy would sit at another table adjacent. And if they brought somebody with them, they sat at other tables and they couldn't talk to John. I always thought that was funny. They had to talk to these guys first, even though they're 5 feet away. Tripped me out. So he had different people. He had police officers. He had just all walks of life would come and meet with him occasionally. I never asked, what my business. I stayed in the back, did my work. And this one particular time, John comes in the back and see, in this restaurant, he had businesses on both sides. So you could walk from one door to the next and be inside the grocery store. The other side, you could be inside the bar or the bakery. And then in the back, there was a door that was an alleyway. And then there was a door that nobody ever opened. And one day I asked John, hey, Mr. Giovanni, what is this door right here? I know where these other doors go. But what is this door? And he looks at the wall and he goes, what door? I said, this door right here with the handle. And he looks, he goes, I don't see no door. Okay, I get it. This is the door that don't exist. So one day, these two guys come in and they brought somebody with them. And it was the first time I'd ever seen this. Instead of them guys placing him at another table, they put this guy in John's table, right across from John. I couldn't remember what they were talking about. I think I was about 14, 15 years old, going off. I was 14, and it was a heated conversation. But then when it was all done, it looked like, hey, it's over. Okay. And instead of walking out the front door, these guys got up. One guy started coming back into my bus station. The other guy that they brought to talk with John was in between them, and the other guy came in last. Well, they went into that door that didn't exist. And I remember the guy looking a little weaselly, but he looked like things were okay. One of John's guys, the last guy to come to the door, stops and he looks at me. It's the first time he's ever spoke to me. In about a year, I've never spoke to these guys. He says, little Anthony. And I don't know why he asked me this to this day, and I don't know why I answered this way. But he said, that guy that we brought in this door, if he comes out this door and we aren't with him, can you put one between the eyes? Sure. I said, yeah. He said, good. He took out a 38 revolver and he put it on top of the bread warmer and wrapped in a cloth. It was so fast, and this sticks to in my mind today. I remember they went inside that door, and I was looking up at the bread warmer and I was looking at the gun. I'd been around guns, but we didn't do that stuff on the streets. We fought with our fists, man. This was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I the gun and I remember touching it. And instead of scaring me, man, I felt some power with that little pistol. I said, wow, oh crap. What if that guy does come through the door? What am I doing? Oh man. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking it's like 20, 30 minutes when it was probably about, I don't know, 20 minutes, but it took forever. Finally, that door opens, and the guy that handed me the pistol that put it on the bread warmer came back out, and he says, little Anthony. I said, yes, sir. He goes, you know John's caddy out front? I said, yes. He goes, can you drive? I said, yeah, man, I've been driving since I was 8 years old. He used to take my grandpa to the liquor store. Yeah, I can drive. He said, all right. The keys are sitting on John's table. Go out there, get in that car, drive it around the back, leave it running, pop the trunk, and walk back around the front of the building. Don't come in this back door. Come back to this bus station and go back to work. Can you do that? Yes. He put $100 in my pocket, man. Most money I made in a long time. And he went back in that door that didn't exist. I did what he said. I walked back around. I walked back in. Everything was like normal. I went back to work. I never saw that little guy again. I got a pretty good idea what happened to him now. And
Yeah, me too.
those two guys disappeared for about a month, and then it was business as normal. Nobody ever mentioned nothing ever again. That was my first taste of the mob.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty, that's pretty wild to begin with. So that was your first taste. Now, um, did that progress into something more?
Yeah, another year later, John, one day he asked me in the back, and this is what I'm talking about, the love. We're in the back room, and he says, "Hey, little Anthony, how are you doing in school?" I mean, he caught me off guard. Nobody ever asked me that before, and I said, uh, I'm doing good, John, man. I go." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, come here." Boom, he smacks me on the side of the head. I go, "Man, Mr. G, what's that for?" He goes, "You lying to me. Don't you lie to me. You're failing English. You're failing math." I mean, he knew everything. He knew there was chaos in my family. He would send food home with my brothers and sisters. Um, but I remember not being afraid. And even though he bloodied my nose, I was like, you know what? This guy actually cares about me. Nobody asked me about my school. And though I had my grandmother, she was a rock in our family. That's where the Bible stuff came in. But one time after that, he said, I always got to eat. Little Jeannie fed me food, man. As an Italian, they just stuff you and stuff you and stuff you. You do not turn down food when you're fed for them. So she gives me a plate of pasta, some gravy, and I go over to eat at my normal spot. And John comes out and he says, "Hey, little Anthony, go sit at my table." And I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Go sit at my table. I'll be there in a minute." I said, "No, no, sir." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Man, bad things happen to people sit at your table. I'm not sitting at your table, John." And he goes, "Go sit at the table." So,
That's
so I
funny.
did. I did. And he comes back out and he has this big jar, Nick, full of change and dollars and everything. And he sets it in front of me. And he says, you know what that is?
The tips.
That's a lot of money. He goes, "Yeah, that's all the money you stole from me. I'm giving it back to you." "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm giving it back to you. Now I don't have to hurt you." And those I started to realize later on in life, these are rules that he can't break. I've 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 stolen from him, stranger or not. Even though I'm 13, I don't care if you're 8. There's discipline that comes with that. But I've paid it. And he says, "With this, I'm buying your freedom. I'm giving it back. Now you're fired. Go get a job." "What, John? What?" And yeah, he fired me. He told me, go learn how to use these. Get out of here. And I would visit him from time to time, but you understand that rule, what he was doing, right?
Hmm. I get it. Very
Yeah.
smart. Very, very wise.
So I would visit him, and he'd let me come in, and if I wanted a piece of pizza to take home, he would send it. If I didn't ask for it, if I asked for it, I had to pay for it. So, but he would send it home to the family, and throughout 13, 14, 15, I became more involved with the warlords. I would bring them by the restaurant, and one day he comes out and he says, "Hey, you can come by, but they can't." And I said, "What's up, John?" He goes, "They're a bunch of punks, man. That's street. You leave the street in the street. You want to come talk to me, you come talk to me." I said, "That ain't street. Those are my people, man. That's my family, my group, my boys." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean your people?" I said, "My crew." He goes, "What do you mean your crew? Is it a crew? Is it a group? Is it a gang? Is it what is it? Do you know what's coming out of your face?" "No, it's just these are my boys." "You know what? They're a bunch of punks. You got two choices you need to make in life when you're around here. You can either be the street or you can run the street. You decide what you want to do, but keep that trash out of my place." I mean, he was very strict like that. And I thought, well, I assumed he was with gangsters. What is there a difference? Well, you bet there is. You bet there's a difference.
There is a difference. Definitely. So when did you begin to realize that Giovanni was what we obviously suspected, that he was, in the mob and whatever. He was connected in some way. When did you begin to really realize this?
I think when I was in high school, my principal, I used to brawl a lot, man. I was bullied young, and I talk about it in my book how one day I just said, "You're not going to bully me no more," and I just started brawling all the time. My pops, he would rather slap you around. You didn't lose fights and come home and talk about it, and you didn't come home with blood on your shirt. Period. You just ruined your school clothes. Then my pops was a hard guy. First guy to break my nose. I think I was about 5 years old. You know, he's still alive. He's still kicking. He's still honoring. But when John's name was mentioned, or people like some of my teachers knew I was working at that restaurant, my grades got better and I wasn't studying anymore. I was drunk sometimes in class. I started passing things, and my principal, Mr. Greco, came up one day and said, "Hey, tell Mr. Giovanni, Mr. Greco, Gene Greco says hello." And things started to happen, and I was like, he's somebody. You know, I'm still a kid, so we know, but it wasn't prevalent. Like I've seen a lot of films and stuff about mob stuff, and it's East Coast. It wasn't displayed like that in Denver, nor is it in Kansas, or is it in these other states.
Mhm.
But it was there, and it was in the air, and he was somebody that officers come in, and pay homage. I mean, it's just he was somebody. As I would meet with him, and I got older, he would tell me to do things like, "Hey, why don't you learn a trade, little Anthony?" What do you mean a trade? "Oh, what are you doing? Well, who's in your family? Your uncle does concrete, doesn't he?" "Yeah, my uncle Mikey does concrete." He goes, "He's good at it too." He goes, "Why don't you do concrete? You learn how to use these things, and you're going to be all right in this world." So I did it, and then when I got poisoned by concrete. It was so hard and tough. I couldn't let it beat me, and then later on became a really good finisher. And that's what I do now for my life. Now I'm a concrete guy. No pun intended. I own Goodfellas Concrete out here. So I learned a trade, and I was telling him about my trade, and he said, "Well, try something else. Put on a suit and tie, man. Have you ever tried one of them jobs?" And I said, "No, I didn't know where to start, man." Hooked me up with a movie theater where one of my friends worked, and I went to work in a movie house, learning projectors and things. And when I was around John, I started to get further away from my friends, and they didn't like that much. I got in a few scraps, and I started to be a grown up, and I still kept in touch with John. I did pretty good at the theater stuff that they made me a manager and put me from Denver to Dallas. And the whole time throughout this, I can't say there was no God in my life. My grandmother used to call her mama. She was the rock in the family. I don't care what gang you were a part of. I don't care how tough you thought you were. Come Sunday morning, she rounded all the kids and cousins up and took them to church. Everybody went. So I put on my church clothes and played church when I was a kid, all the way growing up. And she would sing, the old hymns about Jesus, and she loved her Jesus. And man, she's got 6 kids herself, bikers, fighters. They ran off to Vietnam to get away from the law, came back even more mean and ruthless, on both sides of the family. So Mama was the rock. My grandfather, he wore overalls, a cat hat, and smoked Camel cigarettes that he rolled in his own, drank a lot of whiskey. Um, so she had her hands full. And when I was little at 8 years old, she gave me this verse, Matthew 5, verse 8. "Blessed are the pure in heart, for you shall see, for they shall see God." So I kept that verse and just in my brain. She was my buddy, man. She was, I loved her. Even as I got older, she was the go-to person. You know what I'm saying? She was my mama, above my mom. My mom was like my sister. So
Hmm.
she just kept everything together. And when I was working at Giovanni's, some of the old ladies from church would come in and have dinner. They'd slip little scriptures and notes on my napkins. And my mama was saying, "What are you? I know you're messing with the gangs. Please stay out of the gangs, little Phillip. Please stay out of the gangs. Promise you come to Jesus." All this stuff. "Oh, sure, ma, sure, ma." As I got older, so I'm in Dallas now and working in this theater, and I call John Giovanni up every once in a while. He's having some vino, and I'm not liking it. And all of a sudden, I've got these meetings I have to go to. I've got to put this thing on, this tie, this suit, and I've got to answer to people. And if I'm late, somebody will write me up. I could be fired. Yeah, I mean, people are telling me what to do, and I got to answer these, and I'm making $300 a week. I'm like, shoot, I made more on the flea market stuff and robbing stuff like that as a kid. But now I got to answer to somebody for this. So I learned a little scam. They have movie tickets back then. You'd buy the movie ticket, you'd have to tear one in half, put it in a bag, and give the other half to the customer. Well, I would take over in the afternoon and say, you know what? I'll give one to the customer, screw the bag, and sell the other half to the next guy. So I was getting one for me, one for them, one for me, one for them. And I was double selling tickets. I thought I had a pretty good scam going there. I'm making good money. I got a register. I'm the manager now, system manager. I get my own register over here. So I was giving back more hot dogs that weren't sold than anybody. Refund and refund and refund. So I got my little thing going on here. And later on, I learned about something called auditors. And so that didn't work out for me too good. But I called John up and I said, "Hey, John, I would send him a little gift." He said, "What are you doing that for?" "I still feel bad because I robbed you, man. And you've been good to me. And I just want to send." And he said, "Don't do that. You keep your money. But I appreciate that." And I said, "And I seen other guys do it and they get treated pretty good. So I don't know. I feel good about it. I'm making some good money now." And he goes, "You're making some good money? Explain making some good money. Are you earning money?" Forget about it, John. We'll talk another time. I hang up. I get a call from my sister. She says, "Hey, mama's sick. She needs you to come home. She's was a diabetic. She was on dialysis and her arteries were hardening. She needs you to come home now if you're not gonna make it." Man, I straight beeline to Denver, jumped in my Mustang, 13 hours, went straight to the hospital. Everybody's up there saying their goodbyes. They're all in line, and she calls somebody in, and then it came me. "Come in here, little Phillip." And I come in and say, "Hey, mama." And she says, "Okay, come here, pull up a chair." So I sit down. She says, "Okay, I need you to tell your grandfather to water my plants. When I go on vacation, he doesn't water them, they die. Tell your mother to tie her shoes or buy some Velcro shoes because she's going to trip and hurt herself." And she's going down all this list of stuff. And I'm like, Ma. She goes, "I'm not done. I need you to go to Kmart on Evans Street. Over at Kmart, I got 4 suits, and you and your brothers are going to wear these suits to my funeral. You're going to bury me." I didn't have much money, but they're pretty nice. I go, "Stop, Ma. Stop, okay? Where's this Jesus that you pray to all the time? Where's he at?" I've been around in the streets and I've seen a lot of kids, and one of my best friends shot Mac 20 60 times on a drug deal that went bad. His mother went to church. Where's your Jesus? Come on, Jesus. Come on, tough guy. Fix my mama. Come on. Stop talking about this death. You ain't going to die. And then she goes, "Oh, baby, come here." And I sat down and she was a little closer. "I got to tell you something." So I leaned in. Nick, she has a set of knuckles that could have been brass knuckles. And she gets me across the forehead. Bam! I sit on, "Ma." And she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Don't you ever curse my Lord and Savior again. Don't you curse my daddy. Don't you curse your Jesus. Don't you ever mock him, ever. Baby, promise me one thing. Promise me you'll find Jesus." I said, "Ma, okay. She goes, you know, we go 55 because we want to go 55. Right? I said, yeah. If we go faster and don't get caught, what happens? Oh, we had a good time. She goes, yeah. And if we get caught, well, then I guess we do the time. She goes, son, if I was a cow in my last life, I don't remember. So this one counts. Promise me you'll find the tree of life. And I said, okay, Mom. Okay. Hey, what's that verse mean? Matthew 5, verse 8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. I say it all the time. I don't know what it means, Mom. And she said, that's your ID badge. So what do you mean? When you go before Jesus, he's going to know you by your heart. And I know you have a good heart. So remember that. And tell you what, someday when my little Phillip accepts Jesus into his life, he's going to tell the whole world what God did for him. I said, okay, Mom, whatever. And I said things to pass by her. Here I am, Nick, 33 years later. She walked in. They brought her a bunch of Hawaiian leis, and she went into her surgery and she waved at everybody, and she never came out of that surgery. She knew where she was going. I remember being at her feet, and I did everything she asked me to do. She flatlined December 2nd at 3:23 p.m. 1989. And after that funeral, I was driving from Denver to Dallas via New Mexico through Raton, New Mexico, into Dumas, Dallas, and I stopped on the highway. I got out at 2 a.m. and I let God have it. I said, you mother effer. I cussed and fell in the street. He just took the best thing I ever known in my life. The only stability, the only love, he just took it from me. And I said, you send any Bible preaching Christian person my way, I'll hurt every one of them. I'm done with you. 15 years later, going the other direction, the feds would pick me up.
Wow. All right, so that was my next question, actually. You
Yeah.
came now now obviously now I was going to say you said the feds picked you up. Now you got
Okay.
picked for what purpose?
I had a few phone calls when I got back to Dallas. It's 1990 with John. He gave condolences, and I got fired at my job, but I had stolen enough money I could hang out for a little bit. And I turned to John, hey, I want to come work for you. And he said, what, in the restaurant? I said, no, man. I want to work for you. There's got to be a place for a guy like me, for you, with you. And he said, okay, little Anthony, what do I do? Well, you dress pretty nice and you tell other guys what to do. I can do that. He says, what do I do? I'm not sure, John, but it's got to be good. And he goes, yeah, get a fucking job, Anthony. Get a job. There's no future in what I do. Learn these things. You learn them? Yeah, I did. Yeah, good night. And he hung up on me. Man, I was all mad, walking around my apartment. A couple days later, John's having a little vino. He likes his wine in the evening. He calls me up. Hey, little Anthony. I said, yeah. And he goes, so you wanna do what I do? I said, yeah, John, there's no place for me here. I drive this little coffin to work every day. I have to answer to these people that tell me what to do. And I don't mean nothing. I make chump change. I got no family, bro. He goes, all right, shut up. You stay by that phone. Somebody's going to call you. You don't leave that. Don't leave that apartment. You stay by that phone. You got me? I got you. All right. And he hung up. I call him back. Mr. G, I just want to say thank you, man. He goes, don't ever, ever thank me. Never. Hung up. I'm waiting all night. I'm literally waiting all night. I'm excited. That phone don't ring. I'll wait the next day. Well, he said, don't leave. damn it. I'm walking around. I'm watching Rocky Balboa movies, doing push-ups, thinking and I'm not leaving the apartment. Phone rings. It's not him. I'm like, and the third day, I said, this is ridiculous, man. He's been messing with my brain again. And right when I was about to leave, it rang. They said, Little Anthony, yep. This is he. Here's an address. I'm gonna say this quick, so either remember it or write it down. But I'm saying it quick. And he said it real quick, 10 o'clock tonight. This is the location you got to be. So I go down into Dallas, deep Dallas, past it's an industrial area. And the address was to a place where there's a lot of commodities. Guys are loading trucks with lettuce, squash, tomatoes, and they're working a dock. But they're doing this at midnight. And I'm like, okay. So I go up on the dock and I figure, okay, I'm probably going to be driving trucks or loading trucks. Maybe it's a good job. I don't know. One guy, the dock manager or whatever he was over there, he says, Little Anthony. And I said, yeah, Anthony. Go up those stairways right there. Mr. LaBarba's waiting for you. So I go up the stairs and I got to meet a guy named Carlo LaBarba. And he's up there and he's got a little bitty glasses on. He's got a pocket protector and he's got a notepad and he's taking some kind of energy. And I'm like, I don't really know what's going on yet. And I said, how you doing? Mr. LaBarba, my name's Phillip. He goes, yeah, Anthony? I said, yeah, and Anthony, you know. Am I coming to you for work? And he says, yes. I talked to John. He told me what you do. I said, yeah, I was his busboy. He goes, you're what? I said, oh, cleanup guy. Okay, I got you. That's a good one. I really meant I was a busboy, but he took it as something else. And I said, so I see the guys loading. He said, I see the guys loading trucks, man. I can lift. I'm pretty strong. I'll get right to work, man, if I can. He goes, yeah, okay. Here, anyway, you're a funny guy. Here's an envelope. It's all in there. I open it, Nick, and it hits me. There's a name, a copy of a driver's license, and there's an amount of money. And he says, find him. I said, okay, I'm collecting money. So when do you need this? And he says, like yesterday. All right. So that started. I won't go into some detail there, but I started my little.
I get the picture.
Okay. So doing that for, I think I was down there 1990, 91. I'm bringing in $1,500 a week, which is pretty darn good money back then.
Oh yeah, very good money.
And I'm running my thing. I'm excited. I got some time off. There was nothing to do. I went down to a place called Dallas Alley to go see the clubs. I'm still young. I met a girl, hung out with her. She was pretty. I bought her drinks. We're talking. I said, hey, she asked me if we'd like to get out of there. I said, yeah, let's get out of here. And she goes, okay, but I need you to pay me off first. I said, what do you mean pay you off? I said, I just bought all your drinks for the night. And she goes, no. She called me a few cuss words and I go, well, you look, man, I don't want to hang out with you. She was too late. You've taken up my time. So we need to ante up and then we can get out of here. But that's going to be extra too. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And the bouncer comes over, pretty big guy. And he says, hey, what's the problem here, Sheila? I'll call her Sheila. And she says, this mofo won't pay me. He's been here, took all my time. He said, what does he owe you? She says, $50. I go, 50 bucks. And she goes, yeah. He looks at me, and I'll admit he had a really good line here he used on me. And he looks at me and he says, hey, you heard her. You owe the girl $100. I go, oh, $100. Man, inflation's a mofo in here, bud. I ain't paying nothing to her or you. And he goes, well, that's too bad because it's going to come out of your pocket or out of your ass. And I said, that was a good line. I guess it's coming out of my ass. I was pretty good with my dukes back then, man. And we swung and we're throwing down pretty good in the bar. He's rushing till he gets tired and then he knocks himself out. I didn't know I hit him in the throat, and when he fell, he wasn't getting up. So I put my thumbs and I pushed on that there. You know, right is your air, left is your life. You cave somebody's esophagus down. I didn't know what happened. He's going in convulsions. I stick around. The ambulance comes. Cops come. I get arrested. I'm sitting in jail. This guy is in some kind of coma, and turns out he was what you call a hemophiliac. He's not even supposed to be a bouncer, but he bleeds internally, and he was in trouble. Well, I could have been in trouble, and then I'm bailed out. I'm scot free. Here you go. Get out of here. Nobody's there to meet me. I go home to my apartment. I get a call, and it's from the La Barba people. They said, Anthony, you're done working here. You got to go. You got to get out of here. Go back to Denver. I don't care where you go. You're done here. And I said, what are you talking about? The guy you hit was a nephew of Carlos Marcelo. Carlos Marcelo.
Marcelo.
Yeah, he's down
Oh,
out here.
shit. New Orleans.
Yeah. So I say, you know what? Screw Marcelo, whoever he is. His nephew started it. He goes, don't work that way. You have to go. We're done here in Dallas. I said, I ain't leaving nowhere, man. Let him come down and tell me to my face. You know, I'm a cocky fighter then. You know that, you know. And I didn't know who he was. I was never warned. I still don't know who the five families are at this age. I just know I'm with a good group of guys and I'm making money. And John calls me up and says, get the hell out of here. I heard what you did. Get back to Denver right now. And I said, okay. He goes, leave everything. I go out to my car, and I used to carry apples. I'd go to the gym. I want to go, get some steam out. And I forgot my apples in the house. By the time I turned around and walked back to my apartment, the doors blew off my car. Not a big thing, just enough to burn my interior up. I shit my pants, man. I went, got a rent car, called my dad, everybody, I'm leaving. I left a full apartment loaded with furniture, clothing, and everything. I split, went back to work for my Uncle Mike doing concrete. But John and I got a lot closer, and then I was introduced to the Smaldones. And Chauncey was, being his last days, was who I went to see.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty crazy story. Not for nothing. Very crazy. Well, what caused you to turn away from the street life and begin your current turn to a religion? How you went from street life to this? What caused that turn?
Well, I got to say it's the power of prayer, man. Because from 1991, I mean, my run in La Cosa Nostra was very brief, and it usually is. I don't know many guys now that I know. When I look back and I've met so many guys, they're like brothers, even though they're from other families. It's a different mafia now. It's a cyber kind of world. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
but yeah, I got in quick. It was nice, and I want to. I don't. If I say this wrong, I don't want to sound wrong, but I missed the life because the camaraderie was amazing. I'm Freddie, my buddy. They called. There's a Sam Gravano. Well, there's also a Stephen the Bull, and I don't know Stephen Enos. If you know the Ennis family out of New York, Marsalis, New York. Pat Ennis, Papa, we used to call him. Those guys became like brothers to me. Stevens, he just got out of the pen. He had a 40-year deal, largest ecstasy bust in the United States. His wife got killed by a serial killer while he was in. Just crazy, but we're now talking. We don't talk too much about the life then, but I had a group of about 8 guys. Most are dead now, and the guys are doing time. And in that corridor, I got from Michigan to Juarez. We were basically running escorting trucks, engine blocks, anything that could be stolen, reefers, refrigerator trucks, food, Cisco food, anything down that corridor that we could steal. and resell someplace. It was all insured anyway. Everybody got paid. Um, but if it could be insured and stolen, we did it. I got money. And they say in the mob, they don't deal with drugs. Ah, bullshit. Drugs is a good money making business. I've kind of got into with Michael Franzese a few times on that conversation. He's a different type of, I don't know, mobster, I guess. But we're street guys, man. It's a dollar. A dollar is a dollar, and you take it, you get it, and you don't let nobody take it from you. We had a certain group of guys we hung out with. These were my people. These are the restaurants we ate. I've been married 5 times in that life, different wives. I had a wife and a girlfriend. I was nothing nice, but somebody was praying for me. There was my grandmother. There were certain people I met along the way, and I didn't realize it till I put pen to paper. And if I didn't want for my wife and I'd have never had no book. But something happened and it started going so fast. So I got money. I got girls. I've got vehicles. I've got houses. I've I've got some things from my young age. I started taking guns because I ran into a guy in Juarez. They call him Lobo. He's now dead, but I don't know how many hundreds of bodies. It was all over the news one time. They found on his farm down in outside of El Paso. Him and his father were killing tourists and taking all their IDs and stuff like that. Well, I met with him. I was introducing a guy named Michael Gambino, and I'll throw his name out there. I don't really care for the guy to this day if he's alive. I had to introduce him to use the Juarez corridor. They were looking to make cocaine, bring cocaine in, and what the Mexicans lacked was guns. Illegal to own guns down there for small business owners. I can buy a 22 pistol here, a 38, a 357 for 10, 15 bucks on the street all day long. So I'm taking pistols down there and trading for cocaine. It becomes a pretty lucrative deal for me. I am not, however, sharing any of that business with John because we don't talk about drugs. We don't think about them. And a lot of the guys that got into that life, a lot of associates and stuff that I knew, they started smoking that crack in the 90s. They were on the street, broke, dead, and homeless within a month. Mm-hmm. That addiction got real heavy. I saw the money I could make. I made the Gambino connection down there. They were using that route. I walked away from it. And whenever I needed more money or wanted to have a little fun, something happened in my life. I was going through divorce. I was a little depressed. I went to a bar outside of the bars that we usually go to. Little bar, met a girl, and she introduced me to cocaine, smoking it for the first time. I had been around it. I had seen it. I hadn't done any of it. I did drink, but I hadn't done it. That little hit, brother, took my mind and my soul far away. Here I am carrying 8 ounces at a time, making money. And this is what this tastes like? Woo! Well, that started to spin. I couldn't run my business. I couldn't run any of my collections. I was late. I was losing weight. And when I got paranoid, I got paranoid. I had guns and pistols. You didn't try to make me paranoid because you better leave my house. Everything's getting shot in that house. It was bad. And guys around me started to go to jail. A lot of the mob was getting hit in the 90s. And I think that was the RICO was really having across around the world, really having a day with us. And so I started to lose my mind. On the real, I was losing my mind. I smoked about 60 grand worth of coke from January to March at one time. And
wow.
My boss, I could say my captain knew it. The people around me knew it. And I thought the person high always thinks he's got everybody, straightened out until I just could look in the mirror. I had missed several probation deals. I had several warrants. I had several court cases. I had assaults all over the place. I had just junk, but I wasn't taking care of my business. And John Sepper, he got real sick, and Chauncey died. And that area was a freebie for organized crime
Yeah.
from like the late 90s.
Yeah.
Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico kind of just left, whoever wanted to come in. So I tried to make my business go further, and I reached out to make some contacts, but everybody already knew I was smoking the bad stuff. And I've got 3 bullet holes in me, bro. Different times. I got about 7 stab wounds. I got a plate in my head. I know where those came from. I was going so fast and so out of control. A guy reaches out to me. And the people that were going to prison were getting pinched. This made it look even worse. I could be in one location, but because I got so high, I'd freak out and I'd leave. I got to get out of here, man. That place could get pinched 2 or 3 days later. Who was here earlier? Me. And places I was going, and that doesn't look good when you're in a place and the cops roll in, and then all of a sudden you're in this other place. Well, people start to say that this guy's ratting or he's doing something. When in reality, I was so stoned and I was shooting shit on the streets. My pistols, you can't give me. I'm a connected man. You can't touch me. My brain was screwed up. I was getting myself in trouble. But everywhere I went, the dirt was following me. So some bad things happened to people around. Bad things happened to my family. I have 2 sons by then, and we had the largest SC bus in the United States. Feds were all on us. They took about $8 million, and 3 million showed up in court. And you couldn't say, well, "Where's the other 5 mil?" DEA, ATF, man. My turn was coming up, and I had been associated to some other people on the Bonanno side. I'm not going to go into what our association was, but it wasn't going to end up good for me. I reached out to Teamster Jimmy Hoffa Jr. We all know about his father. So Jimmy says, "Hey, I can do something for you." I reached out to the wrong person, but I had nowhere to go. I'm a concrete guy. I got to get out of Colorado. I got some court dates coming up. Can you give me some direction, man? And I had other dealings with the Teamsters and him before in the concrete world. And he said, yeah. There's you ever heard of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus? I said, yeah, I have, man. Never been. Well, there's one coming through Denver. Go down and see this guy named John Griggs. He'll be expecting you. Jump on that train. So I did what he said. I went down. They said, "Are you looking for a job?" I said, "I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this guy, John. I kind of want to, what do you guys do?" "Well, we shovel shit and we feed animals, and we live on a train, 350 people. We have our own grocery store, school, church. We have our own check cashing on the train. You don't leave it. It's 1.25 miles long. We give you a uniform. Everything's right there in your own apartment." Well, shit, I'm in. So I ran with Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus for about a year. In 2003, I jumped on the train. I married a stripper on the train, but that's another story. One day I got sober, and every thug, by the way, that I could run into was working that train. There's 3 Ringling, but they're not anymore. But there was 3 circuses: the red, the blue, and the gold. And every guy that you see, and them guys handing down the little clown noses and such, this guy's running from Bulgaria. The mob's after this guy. The mob's after this guy. All of them are in trouble. Whenever the cops would come on board and ask for free tickets, everybody shit their pants. Who's going now, man? Who did they catch? And all they wanted was free tickets, not knowing that every one of us got warrants out. So,
wow. Wow, that sounds crazy. But so when did that turnaround happen?
So I meet this girl on the train. She decides she talks me into, one thing that happened on the train is I got sober. I got clean. And she talks me into going back to Denver. You could start over. It's probably not so bad. I'm like, you know, it probably isn't. I don't realize the crap I just did. I'm brain dead here. You know what? I can go start over. Let's make our way. Going to Madison Square Gardens on the subway there, I see a Colorado a wanted sign, and it's my picture, but it looks a lot bigger than what I look like now. And out of Colorado, there's a list of guys, and I zoned in. I go, oh shit, yeah, let's go back to Colorado. Let's go, man. We were in a car, and I was we were up in New York, came all the way down. I wanted to stop in Dallas. I got some connections there. I need some traveling money. I stop in Dallas. Well, she's a coke addict too, and I wasn't having the problems, and she's having what you call Jones in episodes. So our drive isn't pleasant. I'm having this woman scream at me the whole time, and I'm not buying her dope, and she's telling me what a piece of crap I am the whole drive, and I'm just I go into this Dairy Queen in Dumas, Texas. It's a 24-hour Dairy Queen, and I run right into a highway patrolman, Texas DPS, and I'm oh, excuse me, sir. And he says, no, excuse me. For some reason, I have a really stupid conversation with this guy. I'm like, nope, excuse me, sir. And she goes, nope, excuse me. Nope, it was my fault. And I go inside. I'm like, oh, shit. He goes out to his car. I order me some ice cream. Ice cream always makes everybody feel better. So I get him some ice cream. I get ice cream for my girl. I go walking back to the car, and he's still sitting in his highway patrol car. And I give her the ice cream, and she just throws her down. I get fucking ice cream from you? I want this. And I'm just, oh, Lord, geez, shut up. And she goes, did you see that cop over there? And she's pointing at him. I mean, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. We're the only two in the parking lot. And I'm like, would you put your hands down? Don't do that. So it's like this Mexican standoff, man. And then finally he leaves. And I'm like, ooh, okay. I'm on the highway. Remember now, I'm on the highway back to Raton, New Mexico, and going to go up through I-25, I believe it is. Yeah, I-25 up to Denver. And I look in my mirror, way back, I see these headlights coming. And I'm like, oh boy, okay. I'm on my way to Raton, New Mexico. I turn to her and I say, call my mother. She says, what? Call your mother? I said, call my mom. So she calls him. Called my mom. I haven't talked to her for a while. Got a lot of explaining to do. Hey, Ma, it's me. It's Phillip. I love you very much. I'm going to jail for a long time. Okay, I love you. I gotta go. Hung up. She turns. What do you mean you're going to jail? I say, you see those headlights coming? You see that? That ain't no. They're coming to get me. So the car gets right on behind me. Has his lights on. Hadn't hit the overheads yet, but he's right on my rear end. Follow me for I don't know how long, and then bam, he hits him. We pull over. She's like, oh, son of a bitch, tell him this, tell him that. I got about 5 names right now. I've got IDs that aren't me. I've sold my social security number about 25 times to I don't know how many Mexicans. So I don't know what to tell this guy. He rolls up, roll the window down, license registration. I say, yes, sir. May I ask you why you pulled me over? He looks down at me and he points on his badge and he goes, I can do whatever the fuck I want on this highway. Give me your license registration. I'm like, oh, all right. I don't know if we can curse on here, bro. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
I says, I don't have a license or registration. He goes, well, what's your name? We'll start there. And I said, well, it's Phillip Anthony, Phillip Sains, Phillip Hall, Phillip Smaldone, Phillip, which one you want, man? Phillip Anthony Sains, let's start there. Okay, so he goes back to the car. And she's like, what are you doing? If you've ever been on the run in your life, I've been running since 1999. It's 2004 in October. I'm tired. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. I'm tired of running. And she's screaming, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that was my first prayer. It's like, Lord, I wish you could get me out of here. Well, he did. So the cop never comes back to the car. And I'm waiting. And next, you got headlights coming at me. Lights are hitting. I've got bear in the air coming around. And it's like, oh, here we go. Now the reality is going to set in. And he says, driver, with your right hand, take the keys out of the ignition and throw them in the street. Leave the right hand outside the door, and take your left hand, stick it outside the door. I can see both hands. Open the door and step out of the car. Do everything I tell you to do. Not if you understand. I'm like, yeah, she's still screaming. He gets me out on the street. I'm laying down. Cars and headlights are all around me. And I'm like, it's almost over. Then they say passenger. And she's, oh, hell no. And I go, Lord, please taser, something. So anyways, I get arrested. I get sent back to Dumas, Dumas, Texas. And we're driving back, and the officer says, "Hey, man, thank you." I said, "Thank you for what?" He says, your jacket says rabbit, and that means you will run, you will fight, you may be armed. This turned out it could have turned out real bad, man." I said, "Wow, well, thank you for not making it turn out so bad." So I went back to that jail. They said, "We're going to hold you for about 2 weeks. If Colorado doesn't come get you, we got to let you go." But it's already been issued. I won't spend too much time there. I thought, okay, maybe in 2 weeks there's a chance I get out of here. Nah, the marshals were there at 3 o'clock in the morning the next day, and it was, "Haul, pack your stuff, man. We're going for a ride." So I didn't get no breathing room. I cussed the marshals all the way back into, I'm going to Arapahoe County, my first case. I got cases all over the country, man. I've got a lot of dirt. So it's going to be, I went on tour from October 4th till January 2007. And I was going to different court cases, but I cussed those marshals out. I made it the worst 9-hour, 10-hour drive of their life. I spit, I cussed, I didn't want nothing to do with them. The marshal's trying to reach me. You know how they do. I'm reading your jacket here. It says you got 2 sons. You don't talk about my freaking sons. I got 2 sons. You could have done something different with your life. And I was just shut up. Okay. So we get there, and this guy's sick of me. And he tells the driver, "Pull over, man." And I was kept bugging him. "Hey, you want to throw hands? I'll make a deal." Back in the day on the street when I was a punk teenager, and you probably know this, Nick. Some of them cops will challenge you when you say, "Hey, but talking a badge." They'll take that shit off and they'll jump right down and say, "If you whoop my ass, you go free. But if you don't, I'm gonna double charge it." And some of them cops were tough like that, and they would do that in our neighborhood. But they all knew us too. So I figured this cop, let's throw hands, let's step out. If you can do this, blah blah blah. I was splitting if they let me do that. Anyways, he says, "No, I'm not going to fight you. You've cussed me, you've spit on me, and for some reason, it's put upon my heart that I got to pray over you." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "I got to pray over you, man. And I don't want to." And I go, "You don't have to. I'm all good, bro." And he goes, "No, I'm not asking your permission." Nick, he got out of the car, put his hands on top of an SUV, put his hands on the window, and the man really prayed over me. And then they took me down into Sellyport, and he handed me over to the Arapahoe County Police Department. And from there, I went to several court things. But throughout my life, I had my mama praying for me. The people at the churches were praying for me. I had a crazy movie theater lady manager who would pray for all the people, and I would run from her in the parking lot. And she would just be praying. and now I got this federal marshal praying for me. I get into jail. They stockpile all my cases into one deal. End up in Teller County. Up there, I'm going to go to Canyon City. I'm headed there. Organized criminal activity. I'm under investigation for murder on 2 accounts: fencing, racketeering, arson, extortion. So I had been involved in some shootings, and it didn't turn out too good. I'm facing 20 to life, and then the federal charges will probably hit. So I'm not getting out of prison. I'm not gonna.
Wow, that's a lot.
I'm running from Bob. I'm running from Jesus. I'm running from the feds. I don't know what's going to happen next. I've already been shot, stabbed. It's coming, and I'm probably going to get it in the pen. And I keep my attorney, CJ Berardini. He gets dead during my trial, and any money and property and assets I had was all filtered through him. That's how I could get my cash. Well, he's dead now. I get a public defender. I'm her first case. She's 4 feet tall. I'm like, I'm going to prison for sure. They stockpiled my cases into one deal. They got enough evidence to send me away. I'm transferred to this Teller County. My little brother, Darren, he comes to see me. I hadn't seen any of my family. He comes in one day and he's, hey, Phil, how you doing, man? I said, man, D, I'm in jail. How do you think I'm doing? How are you doing, man? How's Ma? How's the family? How's your kids? How's life? And he says, I'm all right. I'm all right, but I got to tell you something, bro. What's up, man? Hit me. I haven't seen you. Tell me everything. He goes, I got Jesus in my life, man. I go, oh, okay. No, man, I love Jesus. Yeah, I just got Jesus in my life, man. And he could help me, and he could help you and your kids. And I'm like, whoa, bro, hold up. Let's go back to how Ma's doing. And so he visited me, and he said, man, I want to get out of here. I have to go, but before I leave, I'd like to pray over you. And I'm like, oh, man. Nah, I'm all right, bro. He says, no, I'm going to just let me pray over you. Okay, what do you want me to do? Do we, what do we do? What do we do, bro? He goes, knock it off, man. So he put his knuckle on the glass, and my little bro prayed something amazing. I can't recall, but I know it was good. And so I go back to my cell. I go back to court. My court's getting postponed. I have my little attorney, and I tell her, I think her name was Julia. I said, look, lady, whatever I got to do, let's get me to prison. I've been in county, going to county to county. Let's get me to prison. And she says, well, your court's going to be postponed because your evidence hasn't arrived. Back then, physically, your cases had to come in. I said, so what does this mean? She goes, he gets another 30 days. And I'm like, man, it's October. I don't 30 days to go back here. Were you crazy? Your Honor, I'm guilty, man. I did it. Send me, let's get me to prison. If we're going to prison, let's get me there. And he said, yeah, I think you need to shut up and sit down and listen to your attorney. I said, hey, she's fired. I'm out of here. She's fired. He goes, I just rehired her. Sit down, Mr. Hall. Man, I go back to jail, 30 days. I'm sitting there. My brother comes to see me. We talk again. He's like, yeah, and I'm Jesus this and Jesus that. And I'm like, oh, okay, man. He prays over me. I start to have these funny nightmares, Nick, in jail. See, I got some clout in jail. I'm La Cosa Nostra, bro. I have 2 bunks to myself. I got 2 breakfasts, 2 lunch, 2 dinner. I make assignments in the pods. I say, you mop, you're doing this, you're doing that. And then I start to have a breakdown, which you can't have if you've ever been locked up. You can't lose it in there. You get any weakness, I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see this group in there, and I call them jailhouse religion. They're in there, and they're all having Bible study, and they're all going to be better daddies, better husbands, better people in society. And I laugh at them. And this one guy, Z, I'll call him Z, he reads his Bible 3 a.m. by himself just before chow time. And I could hear him. Like he's preaching to me. And if you ever been in jail, or anybody out there has, go look at the mirrors in all the jails. There ain't one jail that you can go into where the mirrors are not scraped up. We can't stand to see ourselves. Your 4 walls, you're trapped. You've got to face yourself. It's conviction. You got to look back and say, man, wow. And I don't like it here. And I don't. You start to go a little. Well, I was, and I think it was because people were praying for me. I started hearing these voices of Bible preachers and these guys, and I'm getting angry. And I went to One night I have this nightmare and I jump out of bed and I go over to Z and I said, I warned you, stop preaching to me. I don't know who taught you that verse, blessed are the pure in heart, they see God, but that's my verse. You got no business saying that shit. And I grabbed his Bible and he's like, I'm not praying over you. I'm not doing anything. I said, I hear you. I hear you back in my bunk. And I warned you over and over. So I go to work on this guy. Sheriffs come in, assume the position. Now I catch another case because you can catch cases in jail. So got an assault deal. Sheriff Sedbury walks up and he says, yo, Phillip, Anthony, who can I call you? I said, whatever, man. What do you want? He says, you're losing it in here. And you know what that means. I got to transfer you for your own safety. You know, the sheriffs know what's going on and they know who's going to get hit. And I said, man, I'm going nuts. This guy, he prays over me all the time. And I warned him. It's my case. He doesn't have that right. And he goes, nobody's saying anything to you, Tony. You're hearing voices, is what you're telling me. I don't know. I'm hearing something. See, they have this guy on Sundays. In Colorado, they play Joel Osteen on Sundays. So everybody got to listen to the Joel Osteen Lakewood Church guy. And I get everybody up and I start mocking them. Say, everybody get up, man. Mr. Sunshine's on TV. Say the magic words, man. We all get a Corvette and go to heaven. Come on, guys, get up. And Joey, they're packing you out here. I know you've been reading your Bible, bro. Don't worry. Jesus will be here when you get back, man. I'll see you next week. Because it's a revolving door for those guys. You know, shame on me. Because Jesus was there when they went back again. So I get my last case. I go to court. I think it's all over. My brother comes to see me one last time. And he goes, I want to open up with a prayer. And I said, no, man. I don't know what's going on with this prayer stuff, but I don't know what kind of voodoo you put on me. But I don't want your Jesus, man. I'm having these nightmares, like the stuff I really did, man. Bro, I'm going to die in here. Okay. So let's not talk about Jesus. I'm glad you got Jesus in your life. I'm glad it looks good on you, man. That t-shirt looks well. Wear it, follow it, do good with your family. Stop praying for me. He goes, no, bro, I'll never stop praying for you. I said, yeah, you will. Or I cut you off as a visitor. I don't want to see you no more. I mean it. And he goes, why don't you want Jesus to help you? I said, because I don't want him here. Okay. And he goes, bro, and I could see his heart hurt, man. He really had something there. He says, okay, let's make a deal. Let's say a miracle happens. Let's say you don't do life. Let's say you don't do 20 years. Let's say you don't do 15. And he's starting to tear up. And he's like, let's say a miracle happens, bro. You're my big brother. We all had tough times, but we deserve a chance. Let's say a miracle happens. Will you go to church with me one day and give Jesus a chance? Will you promise me that? And I'll stop praying for you here, but I'll never stop praying for you. I know who my brother is. And I said, yeah, okay, D. I'll do that. But I got news for you, pal. The judge I'm going in front of and the prosecutor, those are real, okay? Those are bigger than your Jesus. It's not make believe. But if that miracle happens, bro, if I live 20 years in here, shit, I'll go to church every day with you. But it ain't gonna happen, man. He got up to leave, and I remember he turned around and he says, bro, I'm gonna prove to you Jesus is real. And I didn't see him again. I went to court. My little attorney, I call her lady. I go, look, lady, you haven't seen me. I signed, I got served some papers by the magistrate. It had a sticky note on it from the prosecutor. It says, I heard you say you want to go to prison. Sign this stuff below and I'll get you there. I signed everything, sent it back. They came to get me out of my cell. I thought I was going to prison. Nope, taking me back to court. I see my little attorney. I go, I haven't seen you, lady. She goes, what are you doing signing papers without me? You know, I'm working really hard on your case. And I said, you know, you're not. I haven't even seen you. She goes, I don't have to. Oh, no. I called her lady one last time. I go, look, lady, I haven't seen you. And she got up on the court bench so she could be my height. And I don't know where this came from. And she knuckled me in the forehead. Bam. Like you should hit me in court like my grandma hit me. I mean, she knuckled me. And she goes, my name is not Lady. My name is Julia. And I'm trying really hard on this case. And you keep getting in the way. I go, I haven't seen you, Julia. You don't see me. She goes, I don't have to. Me and my family are praying over you. I go, what? She goes, I don't have to see you. He sees you. We're praying real hard over this. There's that prayer people again. I'm like, okay, I'll sit down. She goes, today is your day in court. And the evidence has not arrived. This is the third time. I found out why later, and I'll explain what happened.
No, I think I understand.
At that time, they were in a transition of going from physical to virtual, and all your cases were going on hard disks, so they don't have to carry them. And now you don't even get out of jail. You go to court right there on a big screen TV. But apparently, my stuff was put in a generator room on a train and shipped along with some other cases. I wasn't the only one, and they got too hot. And the evidence, I'm gonna say it's a God thing. Okay, that prosecutor got up, that little attorney filed something up there. I don't know the court lingo. I know the judge said, "Okay, Mr. Hall, stand up." And I asked the little lady, "What's going to happen now?" She goes, "The evidence has arrived." Shut up. I just want to know, is it just shut up and watch? They asked for a mistrial. She said, no mistrial. Today is his day in court. As a matter of fact, there's no evidence physically here. I asked for this case to be dismissed according to article whatever. And I asked that he cannot revisit these charges. No double jeopardy. And Mr. Hall be released immediately. That you got something here. And he had nothing. And the judge said, Mr. Hall, stand up against my better judgment. I have to let you go. And I'm like, my oldest son graduated high school in jail. I just met my youngest son, Ashton, 2 years ago. He's 20. He was 27 years old. I haven't seen him since he was 2. I have nothing but destruction behind me. I've hurt people. I've robbed people. And I'm getting God's grace like that. Man, I said, I'm not doing 20 years. He said, no, apparently I have to let you go today, sir. And I was let go. I wasn't released. I had to go back to Teller County, and this was on December 16th. It took them all the way to January 16th to let me out of jail at 11:59 p.m. with a check I can't cash and the clothes I was wearing back in 2004 in October in Texas. Now I'm in downtown Denver, and it's January. It's snowing. I don't know what to think or where to go. I'm going to go to my mom's house. I haven't seen her. I got a lot of explaining to do. I'm still a little paranoid because I'm going to get it back here somewhere down the line. But I never ratted, I never rolled, and I'm not on any discoveries. I've took my medicine. But I walk over to my mom's house. She's not there. My brother lived way up in Pikes Peak, 5 hours away. So I don't know, but I pounded on the door anyway because the lights were on. And my brother answers the door. And he's like, Phil. And I go, I'm out. And he goes, are you supposed to be? And I was like, oh, I hope so. So we had we talked all night, had some good fellowship. And in the morning, he said, I asked him, hey, bro, you got a church you go to, man? And he said, yeah, I do. There's this Denver church, Brian Cedarwall, and you want to go? And I said, nope, I do not. But we had a deal. And I got to know what you got, man. I got to know what's going on here. So that was my start. I didn't jump right in. It was no jailhouse religion like I do my captain, like I did Mr. Anus, Mr. Pops, and Mr. John Giovanni. I knew the cologne they wore. So with Jesus, you couldn't hand me a Bible and say, read this and you'll be all right. No, man. I had to learn who Jesus was. If I'm going to give my life to him and serve him, just like my captain, I want to know who he is. And I was blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of guys, man, from from January to May 11th, I accepted my Christ as my Savior. 2007, May 11th, 1991, and I didn't realize this till we wrote the book. I took my oath, and I thought I sold my soul then. So it was weird how all these revisiting where God took you back to clean you up. And it started there for me. Michael Franzese came down to visit me. He was an associate, was doing some stuff. When I got out of jail, we talked mob talk. He said, "Give yourself 5 years, man. You took your medicine, and just carry this verse: when a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord, even his enemies will be at peace with him." And get out of Colorado. And I said, "Okay." I flipped a coin, landed on Bolivar, Texas, on the map with my dad. I ended up going there. I had further contacts, which I'll share sometime when we talk. I could never go back to my brothers for help, but that wasn't to stop my brothers to come help me. And I met some good, solid people, bro. And right after that, I got a letter from the state of Colorado that all my civil rights have been revoked. I can't even get a driver's license. I'm excommunicated from the state of Colorado. I get kicked out of my own state. And that happens to a lot of other gangsters I knew. I didn't know that, but that's part of the RICO. And if Uncle Sam can't bust you, which they screwed up, then they'll get you another way. But I'm a Texan, bro.
Well, that's pretty crazy, the whole story. But that being the case, you went ahead, and I know we're running out of time, but this is important. I want to bring this in. The part of the book, From the Bullet to the Bible, which was, yep, that's it.
And a documentary now.
Which is what you're pushing, what you're working now, which is pretty much everything you told me, pretty much, and more. How, you just released that, right, very recently, am I correct?
Yeah, that came out in 2018. When I moved to Texas, I worked my way up into a place from Galveston to Surfside, met my wife in Surfside, and the sheriff's department would come to my house. First, they said, "Welcome here. We know you're here. We know who you are," which was very insulting because I thought I left dirt behind me.
Mm-hmm.
But one sheriff kept coming over, captain of the police department. And finally, I asked this guy to get out of my driveway, man. You guys this is ridiculous. Stay away from me. And he said, "No, I want to talk to you, but I didn't know how to approach you." It's about like this. You just did, but get your vehicle out of my driveway, man. I got a problem with cops. I'm sorry. Get off my property. I didn't call you. And he said, "Can I have just a moment? I heard you were going to Freedom House Church down here, and there's it's a neighborhood, it's a poor place." And I would talk with the young guys, and he said, "I got a kid in my jail right now who's going to go down a real bad road. Would you come share some of the stuff you've been sharing about God with him?" I said, "No, man, I can't help you, bro. I'm not really here to do this. I kind of just want to be left alone. I don't want people to know where I was from and start over." I told my wife, and she slapped me, and she said, "Shame on you. Shame on you. God did this for you, and you can't go start doing that for some people." It went from visiting jails to judges. I sent you a 5-minute kind of real video about and it's on there. And then it went from judges to, my wife said, "You ought to sit down and write a book, and that way you can leave something with these people." I had never written a book. Well, an opportunity came up, and I sat down, and in about 3 days, I just kept writing as far back as I could remember. And if you ever want to learn something about yourself, you're an author, 5 books, you put pen to paper. And I got some healing out of it. I've got some, my spelling's horrible. This gatekeeper thing was a God thing. The publisher was a God thing. They paid for my story. I interviewed this guy. We talked almost all night. I'm long-winded, as you can see. And they turned it into a book for me. It went to a guy from Princeton. The forward is oh, what's his name? Anyways, he read the book to check it out and make sure my spelling and grammar was right.
Of course.
And yeah, Rod Gonzalez, and he sent it back, and he said, I made a few spelling checks, but your grammar is fine, bud. That's the way you talk. Leave it; it'll do fine. The book went documentary from Cavicchione Pictures. Just filmed the documentary 2 years ago, and I'm meeting with Tim Lowry, associated to Paramount Pictures. We're looking at a script right now for a feature film. I'm blessed. I'm a federal felon, and I can't even pump gas. But God's given me my concrete hands back. Things John Giovanni had pushed me to do, and I got a book, and I get to go travel and talk to people in schools. One of my coolest experiences was from a mob family, the Patriarca family, out in Rhode Island.
Mhm.
I actually sat with family, and I thought, man, is this a setup or what? But Sandy Premier called me, and she's like the mama of all the family, and she said, I'd like you to meet with our family. I want to show this change. I've made some really good connections there. It was a really strange deal because I'm centered. I'm not East Coast mob, I'm Central America, so we're not really. But man, I've been there. Arizona, I've been in the hot springs with some of the Bonanos. I talked with Bruce Gambino, who's out in Canada. Those the Eric Carlos son, and he's funny. He says, "Okay, Tony, hey Tony," because I don't know where he gets his voice from. Hey, is it really true? It's not. It's God first in La Cosa Nostra. Is that really working out all right? Do you still you got the T-shirt? I'll be no, Bruce, man. I don't have the T-shirt. I got the whole freaking suit. Yeah, it's working out because you know how we used to pray. If we had a heist coming up, or I got to go break somebody's legs or do somebody dirty, it was, Lord, look over my crew as we go take care of business. He answered to us, not to him. It was La Cosa Nostra, then God, then your family.
Yeah, pretty much. Wow, that's crazy. That's very, very interesting. Now, if people wanted to find the book, where would they find it?
Website's being rebuilt right now, but you can look it up. Just type in From the Bullet to the Bible, A Gangster's Tale, and it's everywhere. The documentary, you'd have to go to my email and order that from me.
Okay, what is your email?
From the Bullet to the Bible at gmail.com.
Okay, I knew what it was. I just wanted the people to hear it. So if they want to check it out, they know where to go. All
I
right.
hope I didn't bore you, Nikki.
I'm sorry?
I hope I didn't bore you, brother.
No, not at all. But I know we kind of like went over a little bit, but this is okay. This is a very interesting stuff and stuff people should know about. But I definitely appreciate you coming on the show, and we're gonna keep in touch, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
if you ever do any speaking engagements in New York, you gotta let me know.
You bet. I was supposed to be out there last January, but the COVID thing hit.
Right. Okay. No problem. Whenever it is, just let us know.
I'll look you up, man. Thank you, Nick.
No,
It was
thank you.
I love your show.
Yeah, I like yours. I like yours. This show's gonna be good. I know it. I appreciate it.
Salute.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. This is Nick Christopher of Mob Tales. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check you out next week.